Thursday night, we'll get into this game more a little bit tomorrow with Bills and Dolphins. Buffalo's a 12.5-point favorite. Total in the game is 49.5. I mean, we know Buffalo's going to win the game. The question is by how much. I really don't have a strong opinion. I don't really have that many thoughts on props either. More so probably Miami, because the Bills continue to have injuries on defense. So maybe some A-chain props, maybe some Tua pass attempt props, those kind of things. But we'll get into more of that game tomorrow. Nothing for me side total right now in Bills and Dolphins. A game I do like on Sunday is going to be the Packers and the Browns. This game gives me a lot of vibes to what we saw a couple years ago. If you guys remember the game between San Francisco and Cleveland. A couple years ago, early on in the season, the Niners looked like they were going undefeated. With that offense, Purdy, McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, all these guys, they smashed Dallas at Sunday Night Football at home, and they went on the road against P.J. Walker and the Cleveland Browns as 8.5-point favorites, and they lost that game outright. So let's think about what we've seen out of the Packers so far. Micah Parsons trade, first 2 weeks, look unbelievable. Coming off a primetime game against Washington, people think they're the best team in the NFC. There's something about Cleveland, though, especially for these NFC teams, when they have to travel on the road and play the Browns, who have a very good defense, especially at home. And in these types of games, the Browns just have an ability to kind of muck it up and get teams to play to their level. So I think this could be a bad spot for the Packers. They also have Dallas on the road next week, Sunday Night Football. You don't think they're looking ahead to that game with Micah Parsons going back to Dallas. So you have a little bit of a look ahead. Cleveland's an 0-2 team. I know their offensive line against the Packers pass rush could be an issue, but I think this is a low-scoring, ugly game. I would look at the Browns plus the points. I also like the first half under 20.5 in that game as well. Packers haven't given up a touchdown in the first half in the first couple games, and I think the Browns' defense in the first half is going to keep it low-scoring as well. I also like the Titans at home, plus 3.5 against the Colts. We're going back to the well with Tennessee. Yes, Indianapolis has looked impressive, but they've also been home for the first 2 games. Now they got to go on the road in a divisional matchup. Cam Ward continues to get better and better with each and every start. And I just think this is a numbers play for me, right? I feel like Indy should be 3, maybe 2.5. You're giving me the 3.5 with the Titans. I'm going to take that in a divisional matchup. So I like the Titans plus the points. Bengals and Vikings, no real strong play in this game. You're obviously going to have 2 backups with Carson Wentz going up against Jake Browning. I lean Minnesota minus 3 in this game because I don't really know how much of a downgrade McCarthy is to Carson Wentz at this point. I trust KOC to put together a great game plan. You still have a very good home field advantage there in Minnesota. And also Brian Flores and that defense going up against Browning, who threw 3 interceptions last week against Jacksonville, I think could force some turnovers on that Cincy offense as well. So don't know if it's an official play. Would lean Minnesota minus 3. I do like the Steelers on the money line against the Patriots on Sunday. For me, this is just kind of a Tomlin spot. Bad loss at home to Seattle. I think they bounce back, take care of business against New England. That Seahawks defense is legit. So Rodgers and that Steeler offense should look much better against New England than they did against Seattle. And I know this Steelers defense is a little concerning, but I think they're going to have their best performance of the season so far against the Patriots. So I do like the Steelers. Eagles-Rams should be a really fun game. I think if we get down to Eagles minus 3, I'd probably look at laying it with Philly in that game. Couple good stats for you that really don't get talked about enough. Jalen Hurts as a home favorite, 7 points or less, 15-2 against the spread. 5 points or less, 8-0 against the spread. These type games, Hurts and the Eagles, not only do they almost always win, they almost always cover the spread as well. Rams are 9-2 in their last 11 games. Their only 2 losses have come to Eagles. It's a bad matchup for LA, so I would look at the Eagles, especially if we get to minus 3. Love the Jets on Sunday, plus 7 against the Bucks. It's official. Tyrod Taylor is going to be out there for New York. I just think the Bucks got banged up in that game against Houston. That was a physical, tough slugfest. Baker Mayfield is not 100%. The Bucks are 2-0. They very easily could be 0-2. And I don't know how much of a downgrade Tyrod is from Justin Fields. So I think the Jets are going to be able to move the ball a little bit. I think the defense gets enough stops. They can keep it close. I like the Jets plus 7. I'd also take a peek at the over in the game, 44.5. And then Commanders and Raiders, I'm going to stay away. We were waiting to see whether or not Jaden Daniels is going to play on Sunday, but it's a tough spot for the Raiders, who played on Monday night, going up against the Commanders, who played on Thursday. They got to fly across the country. 3.5, I would stay away. We'll see whether or not Jaden plays, and maybe I have a bet, but nothing for me in Raiders and Commanders. NFC South matchup between the Falcons and the Panthers. Atlanta is a 6-point favorite. Total in the game is 43.5. I think this line is way too high at -6. I don't think the Falcons should be a 6-point road favorite against anybody. Yes, they did look good against Minnesota. I think that was more about Minnesota. Carolina is not a good team, I understand, but they do play better at home than they do on the road. They're an 0-2 team. They're going to be desperate. Their season's on the line. And, Atlanta was able to really win that game last week against Minnesota because of how they were able to run the football. Even though the Panthers' defense isn't very good, I don't think they're going to get gashed on the ground like Minnesota did against the Falcons because the Panthers see Atlanta twice a year. They know what they're up against with Bijan Robinson. It's just a numbers play for me. This look-ahead line was like Atlanta -3, -3.5. Now they're all the way up to -6. Falcons are not the kind of team I want to be laying that many points with on the road in the NFL, especially in a divisional game. So I do like Carolina plus the points. I also like the Houston Texans, man, +2 against the Jags. Total in the game is 44. I mean, season's on the line for Houston, right? 11% of teams in the NFL that start the season 0-2 make the playoffs. Only 2% of teams that start the year 0-3 end up making the playoffs. Texans are a team that has won the AFC South the last couple of years. They've made it to the divisional round in the AFC playoffs the last couple of years. They obviously want to get back to the postseason. And if they do, they have to win this game. I like betting the Texans more on the road than I do at home because defense travels, and they have one of the best defenses in the NFL. CJ Stroud throughout his career has played pretty well against Jacksonville, and the Texans are just a team under DeMeco Ryans that are better bet as an underdog than they are at home. I think this game should be a pick'em. I honestly think the Texans maybe should be favored in the game. I'm still not high on Jacksonville. How do you lose that game last week? Burrow gets hurt. Your offense puts up nearly 30 points. You get 3 interceptions off of Jake Browning, and you still lose that game. That is a brutal, brutal loss for Jacksonville. Both teams are coming off of brutal losses. The difference is that Texans are 0-2 and their season is on the line. I'll take them +2 against the Jags. What about Broncos and Chargers? Man, Chargers open up the season with 3 straight divisional games. They got a chance to win all 3 of them. They're 3-point favorites at home against the Broncos. Total in the game is 46. Don't think this will be an official play for me. I do lean Chargers. Probably just going to bet them on the money line at -160. I am concerned about the Broncos. Their defense, not as good as I think a lot of us thought it would be. It is still early, but I've not liked what I have seen out of Denver up to this point. Bo Nix did play much better against Indianapolis than he did against Tennessee, which is encouraging. But also, Denver's played 2 AFC South teams. They played the Titans and the Colts, arguably the worst division in football, while the Chargers have played 2 divisional games and have looked very good, especially defensively in both of those games. I think the Chargers at home, I would give them the edge in this matchup. You still wonder if the Broncos are reeling a little bit from last week's game. They had that win. They had that game against Indy. How do they bounce back after have to go on the road again and play the Chargers? I would lean LA on the money line. Saints and Seahawks, Seattle favored by 7.5. I would stay away from Seattle this week in Survivor, and I'd also stay away from laying the 7.5. It would be Saints or nothing for me in this game. Another 0-2 team against the spread, so you have to like that. Rattlers played better than a bunch of us thought he would. The defense has played a little bit better. But this Seattle team, I like them way more on the road than I do at home. They only won 3 games at home last year. And again, they won 7 games on the road last season. And you look at how their year has already played out. Win on the road at Pittsburgh, lose at home to San Francisco. Also, think about those 2 opponents that they've played, man. 2 physical teams. Niners, Steelers. Now you're coming home laying a big number against a desperate Saints team. I'd stay away from that. It would only be Saints or pass. I love the Bears this week against the Cowboys, you guys. I mean, it just would be so Bears for them to win this week. The whole city's ready to bury them. Everybody's ready to move on from Caleb Williams. Season's on the line for Chicago. Nobody's going to want him in a game like this. How different, though, would the perception be around the Cowboys, and how much differently would we be talking about this game if Dallas did not find a way to win that game against the Giants, which they should not have won? They gave up 450 passing yards to Russell Wilson. If there was ever a game for Caleb Williams to get right, this would be the one. So I like the Bears on Sunday. Niners and Cardinals, Brock Purdy now might play in this game, so the line is moving up. No play for me. I kind of want Mac Jones to play in the game, though, so that we can get close to a pick'em, and then I'd end up betting San Francisco. Chiefs and the Giants, I wouldn't lay 6.5 with Kansas City, but absolutely would take them as a money line parlay piece. They're my survivor play. And then Ravens Lions on Monday night. We'll get into that game more next week, but Ravens first half -2.5 I think is a great bet in that game against the Lions.